In this video, I'm going to go through the quickest and simplest way to create a PLSH from the Dibble templates. And I'm also going to go through a little bit of what I do to clean up the templates and make it suit my job a little better. So in this particular instance, I'm going to start with a template from a client, and it's going to be a Dibble standard job. So I'm pressing Control in here in my CAD window to open up a new drawing. And this brings me to the templates folder, S, Autodesk 2017, secure templates. And actually this Autodesk 2017, ignore this in future videos where we're not using 2017 anymore, but this will always, whatever the current version is, secure templates. And then since Queen Creek is the client, I'm going to go to that folder for Queen Creek. And the border will be the border for sheets like the PLSH file. It uses an XREF in all the sheets, and then the cover is the cover sheet only. So I'm going to select the border because that's what we're dealing with here. And we're going to save this and navigate to your job folder. So this is 17023.01 is where I'm navigating. CAD, reference, and then I'm just going to save this as the job number underscore 01. So 17023 underscore 01. Underscore represents the point, the zero, or the period, dash PLSH. And since I've already got a PLSH created for this job, since I've already gone through this, I'm just going to go ahead and throw a 2 on here. You won't do this in your job, but I'm going to go ahead and do that for now. I'm going to delete this later. And so I will say save. And that's it. That's all you need to do in order to create a PLSH. So some of the things that you will do in order to make this a little more production ready, I'll go through now. So first things first, I will freeze the grids, because not all sheets are going to use the grids, and so I just like users to have to turn those on for whatever their use case determines. So grids are going to be frozen by default. And after that, let's just go ahead and start up here in this top right. A lot of these text elements, these green text elements here, are going to be placed at unrepeatable eyeball dimensions. So in order to combat that, this one actually in particular that I selected is good. 29.64 in the X direction and 22.45 in the Y. This one was placed 0.04 inches away from this blue line. And I'll go ahead and show that by offsetting that line right now, 0.04. The reason why 0.04 is because that just is a good dimension that works well for spacing, not creating blotchy drawings, but still tight enough that you're not wasting too much space there to the left of that text. So that text block right there is placed at a good spot, and actually this one is as well. So the top guys are good in their horizontal spacing. I know for a fact these bottom ones are not, but we'll get to those later because we'll handle this top right first. The only other thing up here that I'd like to correct is that this line, this blue line that controls how tall this seal block area is 1.75 inches tall. I'm looking at this delta Y here and the length of that line, which is 1.75. We want that area to be 2 by 2. So if I measure this distance horizontally, it is in fact 2 inches. I'm looking down here in my command line. So all we need to do is make it a little bit bigger vertically. So there are a lot of ways we could do that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to lengthen this line here by to a total length of 2. And then I'm going to move these elements here from that intersection down to the endpoint there. So now we've got a 2 by 2 space for this seal. This point is going to be off because that used to be in the center of the 1.75 inch tall box, but now it is no longer in the center. If we trust that it was placed accurately horizontally, which it was at 33.6 inches. But if we trust that, then we can just move this down by 0.125. But if we want to just replace it, say this is off in space and it's obviously in the wrong spot, we're going to go ahead and snap to the mid between the 2 points and select the corners, opposite corners of that box, and then now that'll be in the midpoint. The way that you can verify that's accurate is just by drawing a diagonal line, snapping to the midpoint of that line, and that point should be right there at the midpoint. And it is. So I'm going to go ahead and copy this point over to this box where the Dibble logo is. Oops, I accidentally double-clicked there. So copy this point. And I'm going to do the same thing. Select opposite corners of that box, and then I'm going to bring the drag point to the point that I just created. And I'm going to enter my Dibble project number once the text element pops up. And drag that out so that the whole text shows up. And we're good up here on the top right. Nothing else needs to be done up there. This bottom right is chock full of things that we're going to need to change. So I'll try to go through those as quickly as possible, working my way from top to bottom. First off, if we look at the X and Y positioning of this Town of Queen Creek element here, we see that the X positioning has a non-repeatable geometry, 32.6952. So I'm going to go ahead and change the defined width to 3.8 since it's already pretty close to that. So 3.8. And then I'm just going to make sure that my node, I'm snapping to the top right node there. I'm going to make sure that it's up at the top right of that text area. And now it is, so that element is good. Same thing here, this logo is placed at 4.1099 in the Y direction and 30.1156 in the X. So since this is a circle logo in general, and this node, this placement node, the drag box, appears to be about at the center of the circle, I'm going to just go ahead and create a 1/2 inch line horizontally and then draw a 1/2 inch vertical from that, because this space here is 1 inch tall. And that'll create, hopefully, a well-spaced logo. And looks pretty good. It's a little closer on the bottom than it is on the top, because this drag point doesn't look like it was placed exactly in the center of the circle, but you know, it's good for this purpose. And the best thing is it's something that's repeatable. So when someone looks at this and sees that the X position is 30.1 and the Y position is 4.1, it's something that indicates it wasn't just eyeballed. So the other thing that we want to do down here with these text elements is make sure that they're all placed horizontally in a repeatable fashion and something that makes sense from a production standpoint. So I'm going to offset this line here, which these vertices should match up, and also up here these vertices should match up, because this line, the vertical line in between here, that's usually separates the construction notes from the rest of the sheet over here, that vertical line can be frozen independently of the rest of the border. So we want that the endpoints of this line to match up with the border, so that when it's frozen it doesn't create gaps or overlaps. So anyways, we are going to offset this vertical line here 0.04 inches to the right. And now all this text that should be aligned with that blue line, we're just going to go ahead and drag over there. And also I'm checking simultaneously this Y dimension to make sure that it's something that makes sense and was placed appropriately. We could also key this in. So this X position is 29.64. So this scale item, I can just key that in, 29.64. And I could do that for all elements that should be at 29.64. Another thing that's wrong with this is the Y position is off. So I'm going to go ahead and drag this up to the top and bottom of this box, and now the Y position is good at 1.45. So that is one row or column of text down. Another thing I like to do is I like to create a def points placeholder for these drawn, design, check, and date boxes. So I'm going to move this over 0.4 and place these items on def points and copy those over to the other boxes so that in the sheets, these elements, actually let's undo that. So I'm going to make these not say DRN and date first before I do that. So I'm just going to throw some X's in here. Doesn't matter what they say because they're going to be overwritten in the sheets and they're not going to plot anyways. So it doesn't even matter if they're caps in this case. I'm going to copy those over to the other boxes so that those can be used for production purposes. And also the same thing with these DES and CK and other date boxes. These are also not placed right vertically or horizontally, so we're going to delete these, remembering that this is a DES and this is a CK. We're going to copy the DRN and date over to replicate what was there, but add a decent horizontal position. And there we go. All these boxes, these 6 boxes, are good to go. The drawing and the sheet text, well, so the drawing text is okay. The sheet text is not okay. It's not drawn to or snapped to the top and bottom of these boxes, so we'll just snap it there to make that all good. The model looks good. It's at 33.1 and 1.45. That's all good. These elements here are good in the X direction, not in the Y direction, weirdly. So it looks like this is snapped to the top and bottom of the box, but it's actually very slightly off. So we're going to drag that off and snap that to the bottom because the bottom was what was off. So now we're at 1.45 in the X direction or the Y direction. The X looks good at 34.1, and we've got a defined width of 0.33. The total width of this box is 1 inch. So we know, since this is 1 inch, if we wanted to divide this up into thirds, we could make these the X's for the sheet numbers, we could make those 0.33 to have this divided up into even thirds, but we don't really want that. We're actually going to want these to be about 0.4 wide, which this one already is close to that. It's at a defined width of 0.4162, but we can just go ahead and change that to make it 0.4 even. And there's actually something else I'm going to change about this. I'm going to snap that to the corner there, and I'm going to copy this over to the other side as well. And the reason why I'm doing this is because I'm going to throw both these on def points, and I'm going to have these controlled by the sheet set manager, which is a simpler way of defining these things. And all these elements will just be copied into the sheet, and then fields will be used to control the sheet number of the sheet and the total sheet count, all through the sheet set manager. So this horizontal and vertical, this is off. There are a couple of things that are off about this. All the text in this portion of the sheet template is either L90 or L120. The horizontal and vertical text is L100. There's not really a good reason for that, so I'm going to change that to L90, snap it to the bottom and top to make the Y direction, the Y position, good at 1.45. The X position is at 31.1414. Let's just go ahead and make that 31.2. And we're going to do the similar thing with this def points text and move this over 0.8 inches. And doesn't matter what this says. And I'm just going to throw that on def points. Just to verify that you have enough space, you can insert a common scale, like 1 inch space equals 20 feet, and verify that that's all going to fit, and it looks pretty good. And so now all this stuff in the bottom right of the sheet looks good, and the rest of everything should be pretty good except for this element right here. Let's go ahead and move that to the bottom corner. And now we're going to move it over some reasonable distance. 0.18 works well. And so now this is placed at a good X and Y position as well. So everything in this sheet is now clean and ready to go. And I'm just going to go ahead and change this back to XXX so that it's clear that that needs to be user entered. And that's about it for creating your PLSH.